50-page, not looking for a 50-page book or anything, but just enough to know that, why this project, why now, why here. I feel that that's very important for everybody as well. And again, projections, like some people look at me whenever I ask for projections, like why would I need those? And I said, I need to see what the growth of your company is going to be. Year one, what you plan to do, year two, year three, what are the expenses you're going to incur? Just knowing what that cash flow is going to look like, what amount of money you're going to be needing to bring in every month, what's your rent looking like every month, what's your loan payment looking like. So I think that that's all very important details that is very much needed as you move forward. Also, and again, all of these things any bank will request. So whether it's me you go with or another bank, we're all looking for your business plan, your projections, the 3 years of personal tax returns, and that's all the pages, and that's for 3 years. If you have any other businesses, we also look for those business tax returns. Your personal credit score, we like to see anything from 650 and above. And also, I think it's important to note as well, if you have had anything in your credit history that you want to talk about in the front end, I'm open to talking about it rather than finding things out as I dig deeper into your file as well. So communication is key. Keeping that door open is really important. The SBA forms, I will send you out an application. So you'll have a personal information form, a business information form, a debt schedule if you have any current debt in your business, or whether it's a new business and you have no debt. Personal financial statements are definitely something that we all look for, trying to see, where you stand with, what's in your savings, what's in your checking. Do you have a 401k? Like, what is your backup options? Do you own a personal home? Do you have a rental? Do you own cars? Do you own boats? Do you own planes? And then what those payments all look like, because we all know that looking at our personal financials, I know that that's not going to change whenever you start a business. So if you're used to a certain lifestyle, you're going to continue with that. I don't listen to people whenever they say, well, we're going to cut this and we're going to cut that, because that's not real life. And I like to set that expectation. So if it doesn't make sense on paper, then I'm going to be the first to say that this just isn't the right opportunity and we're not the bank. And we can walk through scenarios of what would look right for the bank or what would look right for you, or how we kind of compensate, how we get to a point that we're going to be able to move forward. The equity injection is also another huge part of preparing. So as I said, that 10% of the total project is very important on the front end to see, is it sitting in a savings account? Is it sitting in a 401k? Where that money really is coming from? Is it being gifted? Because at the end of the day, if we don't have that 10% of the total project, it kind of delays being able to get things done as well. It kind of hinders you not knowing where that's coming from. And again, just making sure that we're putting our best foot forward for you, because we believe that you need to have, a little bit of leeway. So we don't want to be taking all of your cash day one. And I spoke about building your team. Your team is a very important one. I feel everybody, needs to have a good team behind them, from finance to CPA to consultants, like whatever you need in your space, even a good contractor, somebody that you can rely on, somebody that you can talk to, or even another business owner who has gone through this before. But having good people behind you will really help you to move forward as well. So our process, pretty straightforward, like anybody else. We have, the connect. We spoke about the underwriting, the credit review, the closing, and the servicing. So connecting is, that connection, whether it comes through a lead, whether somebody introduces you, or whether we meet for the first time face to face. I always set up an initial call with somebody after the fact. Trade shows are wonderful places, but talking business is not. It's not where you want to be talking about your personal financials or any of your business strategies. So typically, once we've made that connection, I set up that initial call, and that's where we're going to discuss your long-term business goals, see what kind of a loan, and we can tailor it towards your needs, and then determine what is the right amount of money to give to your business giving too much can be as harmful as giving too little. So just making sure that there's a balance, that we're covering everything that you're trying to accommodate with the loan as well. And then, as I said, review your credit history. That is a very important part of the loan process. And again, it's a lot easier in the front end to just, as I said, be honest about things. Never be afraid to talk about something. There's never a silly question. And then really understanding your financial standings, like what is coming in every month, what's going out every month, what's going to happen with the new business. Is there going to be like a little bit of wiggle room in there? What do you think you're going to be projecting that first year, that second year? And when you're starting off a business that first year, we know that, we're not going to see a break even point. Year two is where we see that break even point, but year three is really whenever you're off to the races. And that's where we know that, it takes that long to kind of get yourself up and running in a community as well. So for the underwriting process, we review all of the documentation that we spoke about, the personal tax returns, business tax returns, debt schedule, business plan, projection. So all of that is then sent to the underwriter, and they are going to dig through all of that and validate that everything in there is right. And, they will typically, you do have a call with your underwriter as well, just to kind of go over, and they like to just know their borrowers and kind of be able to talk about it as well. And then they do, once they're completed with their file, it typically takes anywhere from 10 to probably 16 business days at the moment, but we've seen a huge upward trend, which is great. Business is booming, so there's always that, but just know that we will communicate timelines as well, so you won't be in the dark about anything. And then once they're ready to send it to credit, they send it, and then we start the credit review. So this is where a credit officer typically has heard about this loan prior to even the underwriting process. I like to keep my credit people and just let them know what's going on in my world, what I'm seeing, whether it's, a business acquisition, whether it's a startup, so that they know what they're going to be looking at, not just numbers on a paper as well. Because in my opinion, there's always a story behind the borrower and what they're trying to do. So it's not just all about those numbers on the pages. But they will analyze your cash flow, review the credit score, and then everything is satisfactory for them with your projections and cash flow. They do give you then that commitment to land, and once you have that commitment to land, that really means that we're starting that closing process. And at that point, we're all gearing towards getting your loan closed as well. So it's very exciting when you sign that commitment letter, but at that point as well, you're also starting to spend funds. And I think that's important to note, as we don't order any of our third-party reports prior to getting that commitment letter, because there's always a chance that something could pop up or the space goes away, just something that we're not sure that comes up, and then you have a report that you have to pay for because we ordered it. So we just try to wait until the closing process, unless it's something that you're adamant about that you want to get before then to expedite the closing process. But we try to make it as easy as possible. And this is really where we find a lot of deal fatigue comes in at this point, because you're set with another checklist of items that you're needed to do this. You do have a closer who will walk you through everything, from insurances that's needed, to the 1919, all of the specific SBA forms, and just really going through and drilling down as to what is required. There's typically a kickoff call, myself, your closer, your construction specialist, and we're all kind of getting ready to get you over that final hurdle as well. And we're here to help in any way that we can. The closer definitely does a lot for you. This is what they do every day, so they're happy to talk to insurance agents. They're happy to make things a lot easier for you as well. So just know that they are a great resource whenever you get to this point as well. And then everybody's working towards getting to that finish line. There's certain things that we can't collect until prior to closing, but we try to make it as easy as possible. Does it always happen that way? Probably not, but we try to make it as effortless as possible, and just be that team working towards that closing date.
And at what point in the process is your visit out to their facility or the site?
It's typically in between. I'm doing them earlier and earlier now. So typically, whenever it goes into underwriting and before it gets to that commitment letter, the closing is whenever I do it because again, I don't want to go somewhere and then, I believe in the deal at that point. So that's really important to me. But I also don't want to have your closing wait on it because it is part of our it won't close without that visit. We do sometimes have drive-bys and different things, but I typically, and most of us typically go see that person as well, because again, that relationship is there. And a lot of questions come up whenever you go to visit the site, especially with if you have a construction project or you're purchasing real estate, like there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of like, how long does this take and who does this? And so
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that people are sometimes don't want to say over the phone or put in an email, but whenever they see you coming, I feel that a lot of my visits are probably a good 2 hours, especially if it's a startup. And then I like to walk the site. I've sometimes have my lovely muddy boots, because we go walk in the on the land and things. But I definitely think just being able to see your vision, especially when we're walking like on a piece of dirt and this is where your enclosures are going to be. This is going to be the front office. And so I just can envision because obviously we have a lot of things already in play here. So I can envision exactly what you're talking about and can see, that this is part of, this is what you've driven yourself towards. And this is what we're bringing it to reality at that point.
And at what point would the construction specialist get involved with the conversations?
Typically at the in the closing, but if it's going to be one that is a harder one to close, I will bring them in at underwriting as well. If we have a closing that has a hard date to make sure that we have that GC qualified where we are with architecture and engineering and permits because there's a lot of things needed on that side as well. So I think it's really important. I bring people in earlier than probably most others, but I just feel that it's good to talk about these things and know what's coming and not be blindsided or have a panic attack whenever you get all these checklists because I feel I have my checklist. The underwriter really doesn't have that much, but have a lot of questions.
Mhm.
And then, closing has a checklist, construction has a checklist. So it just seems like a lot. And then, people are trying to do, a lot of people are working and this is their second job and they're trying to work out how to do things. So just being cognitive of what their needs are and what we can do for them in the front end as well is really important.
And what does the construction specialist go on site as well?
Sometimes they do, but typically the construction specialist will take over, especially when the loan closes. So let's just say we're buying a piece of real estate, we'll close in that real estate and we may not start construction for another 6 months or 4 months. So the construction specialist is still working in the background and, getting whatever items he post closed for closing in order to get the piece of dirt that somebody wants. So they're with you through the cycle of that. But again, it just really helps to know that that person is there and there's a group of people but there's one person that you're assigned to, so you may have multiple people that you talk to but like you have that one person who's able to assist with that as well. The construction team typically don't come to a lot of site visits. It just takes away from, them sending out like paying your bills or paying your invoices.
Mhm.
And, if we're able to be in and out in one day, we definitely accommodate that. But I just find it's harder if we have to spend an overnight that we're aware that we're taking away from that as well. So then once we close your loan, Live Oak doesn't go away. We stay on the whole term of the loan. So you then have this person called a portfolioist analyst. So they're there with any questions you have about your loan payments. They're there, to pick up quarterly financials, which is another thing that we do. We just want to make sure that, your pet care facility is performing the same as our portfolio. Is there any red flags? Is wages higher than they need to be? Is expenses higher? Is there something that we see that just isn't consistent with our typical portfolio? And that's where we do differ a lot, is that if there is that red flag or that we'll pick up the phone and also ask that question. The analysts do visit probably every other year. So they do come out and see your facility and meet your staff. I think they typically bring either donuts or cookies when they come at that point. So you want to be able to see them, but again, they're that point person. And again, you're not alone. If let's just say there was a lien put in your home, you're about to sell your home, you would call them and ask them to get that lien removed. Or if you had any questions, let's just say you wanted to open a second facility, they would then flip you back to me and we would then start another application or a loan. So again, great resource to have. I think that most banks don't have this, but we have seen that it really helps from our side to just be able to have that person who is dedicated to you and is able to help you. And if you do need help, we do have teams that are there to help, and they're called the special asset group. So if something goes boom in the night, or there's a hurricane, like something horrendous happens, there is another way around that. So we have somebody that we can talk to, and we just don't instantly have to worry about, having to close the doors. That's kind of the last resort with us. But we work with you and we try to get you back on track, whether we hold payments, there's no loan payments for a little while. Again, depending on, what that incident looks like. We're here to make you have your business and move forward, because sometimes bad things happen to good people, and we feel that we're able to offer that assistance that other banks can't do as well. So as I said, we're here to help you, whether you're buying, you're building, you're expanding. That's part of what we do here at Live Oak. Another nuance for us is we just opened our Live Oak checking accounts, business and personal accounts, which we talked about for years. So it's great that it's finally here. One of the components of this, in my opinion, is once we especially fully fund your loan, we're able to put your working capital into your business savings accounts, or business, even your business checking account, so that we're not having to, wait that extra day for it to be wired to somewhere else as well. But again, it's just a nice resource to have. You're able to access it online, connection with QuickBooks, no minimum balance required, but like we do have another dedicated person. So whenever we get to the portion of our loan, we have a person who will then open your business checking account. And then there's the option as well to do savings and other things. But again, it's something that we hadn't offered before, and something that we're now able to offer to kind of make us a one-stop shop as well. So I think this is my last slide on express loans. So this is something that, we always had a lot of people come up to us at trade shows and ask us, we only need 50,000, or we need like 100,000, or we only need 300,000. And the process with the 7A loan is a little tedious whenever it's for a smaller amount of money. So they come up with an express loan, which makes life an awful lot easier for everybody. The documentation is much more minimal than what it is for my 7A product. So they're looking for bank statements, they're looking for operating tax or business accounts, articles of organization, like things that are readily available to you, and your debt schedule. They're going to see, it's a digital application. So you upload everything online. You then hear from somebody. If they're missing something, they're going to reach out to you. But the decisioning is very quick and the closing is very quick. And again, it's serviced as well, but it just kind of encapsulates a group that we weren't able to do. If, that AC unit goes out and you need to, have an AC unit, we're able to help with all of that. So it's a lot easier. As I said, the terms are up to 10 years. There's no prepayment penalties. It is for leasehold spaces. It's not for purchasing real estate. So that's a big proponent of that as well. But again, it's an expedited closing process. And I think from start to finish, it can take up to 30 to 45 days. Whereas with me, my process definitely takes longer than the 45 days, depending on what the loan is, whether it's for new construction or whether it's for business acquisitions. But like this has changed the lives of a lot of people, so it has. Any questions?
I think I got all my questions out of my system.
That's a good thing.
Well, it feels like it's a foreign language. Like so much of it I would need to sit there and Google, I think. Um,
Well,
so
I
it's
mean, again, this is something that I do day in, day out, but I do feel that, it's good to be able to pick up a phone and have a resource, as I said, and I can't stress that enough. We're here to help small businesses. That's what the bank was founded upon. We're not about, whether your loan is, as I said, 50,000 or 5 million. We're here to help, listen, and guide. And I think that's, the best part of my job is being able to just see people who, I've spoken to for so many years and finally see them doing the projects that they wanted to do that, COVID impacted a lot of things, I feel, for people. And we're finally at a point where interest rates, unfortunately, are not going down. Business is getting busier for everybody. And I think a lot of people are biting the bullet right now, and doing that second location or opening that location because, I mean, we haven't seen any oversaturation in markets as well. So trying to figure out, what that looks like. We do as well do franchise lending, and that's in a different part of the bank. So I just look at independent businesses, and that's been a lot of fun on my side, just seeing, what, some people like to have, the cage free, some people like the very fancy doggy suites.
Mhm.
I was in one recently, and I mean, it was just a room that was dedicated to a theme, like a Vegas theme, and the bed, the floor, the rugs, the mirrors, like
Oh
you
my
name it. It
gosh.
was just like, wow. And people pay for that. Like people want their dogs. I feel dogs are very much part of a family now, and they're even, parents with their kids, their grandkids to them, so they're spending money as well. So it's definitely a great industry. And again, everybody has more than one dog and they need to go somewhere. And we want good business people to come in and, take this opportunity and make their dreams come true, because it's a lot different than sitting at your desk 9 to 5. It's definitely it's hard, but seeing the benefits of it and seeing how you're helping so many people, I think is huge as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Do you find that a lot of people like there's a uptick in loans now because they were waiting, hoping that rates would come
Yes,
down, and now they're just not. So like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna
correct.
do it. Can't put my
They
life on
are.
hold forever.
They are. And that's the good thing about it is, is that we're able to make sure that it makes sense for them as well. Like if it doesn't make sense, then it's just like let's maybe get a smaller facility, or let's maybe do this add-on and maybe not, build that 12,000-foot facility that just doesn't make sense. I think the biggest issue right now is getting those special use permits. Those are not being given out very often. So if you're able to find that piece of land that has the right zoning, and it makes sense for you to be there, like that's the biggest question that I ask first day, and people are like, what do you mean you need special, zoning? I said, well, unfortunately, you just can't open and operate a pet care facility like anywhere that you want. So if you're close to a neighbor, like you have got a neighborhood behind where this facility is, you have to get the permission, you have to go about it in a process to go to the city to put in an application, then send in like your plans and specs and what your business is looking like. Then it goes through a process within the community. Sometimes there's hearings about it. So it's not as easy as it sounds, and really not having that then prolongs you as well, closing your loan. I've had some people recently who, bought a piece of land, thought that it was zoned properly, to find out that it's not zoned at all. And they're in a position now that they're trying to get it rezoned. And that in itself is a really hard thing to do. But they have this beautiful piece of property that they can't do anything with. So
Oh, that's so frustrating.
it's very frustrating. So, I mean, it does help to kind of have that advocate in the front end, and even having a broker who knows the commercial space. Like a lot of people, I feel if you have a friend of a friend who does, residential is a completely different animal to
Yeah.
what it is in the commercial space. So it is just like building. You need to make sure that your builder knows the commercial space, because, you need those floorings, you need the coverings. Like there's so many things that people don't think about. And if you don't start off with the right drainage
Hmm.
and the right insulation and ventilation,
Yeah.
that's just going to impede your business from day one, and you're never going to catch up from that either. And somebody walking into those smells, it's not something that you want to do when you've, got a $2 million project and you didn't want to spend something that you should have spent on the front end. So
Yeah, I think it's been interesting hosting all of these webinars, learning like because running the business isn't the part of pet care that I'm really overly familiar with. So all of the things that like if I've learned one thing from all of this, it's that if I ever do want to start a pet care, I'm gonna go find experts in
Correct.
pet care in whichever avenue I need to go. If it's construction, if it's like whatever it is, it has to be pet care specific in
Correct.
all of it because it's so nuanced.
It is so nuanced. And that's the great thing about, the trade shows that we all go to and meet, like having the vendors there
Yeah.
on site and being able, like you can only ask, as I said, so many questions because, there's lots of people lining up behind you, but just getting that contact and making that association, and again, evenings, everybody socializes, so you could see them later on in the evening as well and just kind of talk through about like what you're trying to do. And they may look at you and think that you have three heads and they're like going, oh my God, please don't do that because,
Yeah.
and give you reasons for it. And then you can either listen to that advice or decide that you know better or whatever. And, but at least you've been told what the right way to do is, and you decide yourself what's best for you and your business. And I think that's really important. And all of these,
Yeah.
and can't preface it enough, like ask questions, don't sit back and don't know what's happening, just make sure that you're spending your money the way that you want to spend it
Hmm.
and doing the things that you want to do and not kind of, I feel at the end, especially when we get with budgets, like making sure that you have the amount of space that you need for your enclosures, for your daycare, for your training and grooming, and not giving up where you're able to make revenue. Like your front, as you walk in my opinion, that does not have to be a Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
You can make it pretty without, doing lots of things, but again, spending your money where it makes sense and, being able to accommodate your customers, they want to walk in somewhere where somebody knows their name, they know their dog, and they feel very confident trusting and leaving their dog there for the day as well, or the week, in fact.
Hmm. Yep, definitely.
Brad has been very silent.
He put in the comments that he says he's all good with the questions, but thank you for the presentation. So,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's interesting. I just, if you, since I don't know if I'm the one here, but um, the process you described, I think a lot of banks don't understand the pet space.
Yes.
Um, I've been in a bunch of business from VC to private equity backed to franchise development, and we just started an indoor dog park with dog daycare and restaurant. So you put it all in one bucket.
Exactly. And how
And
was that process? Because I mean, you've got your restaurant license, you've got your liquor license, you've got your special use. Like you have a lot of different things that you're kind of juggling to put together as well.
it depends on the state. We ended up in the state of Maine. Um, I had to sue the state of Maine to
Wow.
get the health department because they were literally interpreting their rules differently. Um, but literally a year ago on this property, we started on this property that we're in now. We're opening in October. We
Congratulations.
did do an SBA loan. Um, I had an investor recently back out due to a son passing of an overdose. So we're now scrambling to try and fill this gap. But it is interesting. It's yeah, I think a lot of people that get into this space don't understand the regulation. I invested heavily in our business plan, and one of my advisors owned the largest dog daycare in the region.
Yeah.
So I brought a lot of the right, but it's a very gate kept business
Right.
what I've seen. Um, when you reach out to people that have other parks, they don't want to. It's like it's all top secret stuff.
Okay.
My history was always trying to help people get started, and I do a lot of entrepreneurial workshops. But
Okay.
it is an interesting space. So we're excited. We intend to open another one next year,
Okay.
and then by year three move into franchising, which has been a lot of my history in franchise development, but not in pet space, but in the restaurant space.
And that's exciting. Like I haven't done a doggy daycare, the indoor park or anything. We've looked at different ones, but just never found that right opportunity that was for us. So I
I,
understand like it's not the same as what we're doing, but it has that concept. It's just that it hasn't been around long enough. And I think people don't know enough about it as
yeah.
well to
It,
really understand what you need and, all of those.
Yeah, even in the software space of the folks that handle the bookings and things like Ginger and stuff,
Yes,
we went through 6 companies before we found one that could or was willing to adapt
correct.
to the space, and now they're embracing it. I brought in I developed some apps that we sold in the past, but I also the food service side because the systems don't typically work together, and so the Run Loyal company. So Beth, if you ever want to bring somebody in, I would Run Loyal as an app company would be great to. If you message me, I'm happy to give you the CEO's information. But this space is probably going to become one of the hottest spaces in the United States over the next 5 years.
Yes.
And I can tell you, as we've been looking for investors to fill out the round, 75% of the people that are reaching back to me, they're digging for information on their own more than they are. But
Correct.
there's a lot of interest in the space. Um,
And a lot of opportunity. And I
it's
think
exactly.
that's the great part about this is the
Um,
opportunity is there. And it's kind of like, myself and, other banks that are out there. There's enough opportunity for everybody to do really well in this space.
yeah,
And I think that's important for, and I know from working in the industry myself that people are so open in the doggy daycare and the boarding. I'm not so sure about the space. I know that you're in a different niche of it, but I mean, I've heard people sitting in my presentations telling people that they didn't do their trenches this way or they didn't use this.
yeah,
And they said, they stood up and just said, listen to what they're saying up there, spend the
yep.
money on what you need. And, you can always go back and redo things as well after the fact, but not on big ticket items. So,
Yeah, it's the membership base. A good friend of mine, they actually started Planet Fitness.
okay.
So I've had some coaching from them about membership and how they've done with it and the models. The really interesting when you look the opportunity for profit once you hit break even, depending on your base overhead, the profit margin in this is substantially better than the restaurant world.
Oh, absolutely. But
And
again,
we
whenever
also
you,
partnered with the dog gurus for the
yes.
training and development for the staff. And so we're putting a lot of money into it. I've tapped out everything I think I have left, but
But you believe in
it
it.
is
And
exciting.
again,
I would be interested just to have a conversation because I find it interesting. You're the first bank related person that I think I've been able to hear from or see in this space that is understands the space. A lot of them think they know or may have done some dog daycares and such. And it's the if it hadn't been for the lady that is an advisor where she owned some large dog daycares, it was super helpful. And we hired our manager for the dog side of the business early on.
yeah,
It just worked out well because his wife just had a baby, so he was able to leave, go on paternity leave, and by
amazing.
the time paternity leave is done, we'll be ready to have him start with us full time.
Yeah. And
Oh,
how we got
great.
into this space as well, Brad, is that the bank was started on veterinary and we were known as the doggy bank.
Yeah,
And then one of the co-founders of the bank had saw this niche in the daycare and decided to kind of go down that alley and see what that was like because you didn't need to have a veterinary on staff. There
yeah,
was a lot of similarities, but a lot of nuances as well. But like that's how we got into it was seeing that, there was a need for this. And that was, as I said, like 8, 9 years ago. And like things have changed so much since then as well. So COVID definitely impacted a lot of our businesses, but like seeing the rebound was just astonishing, just how people pivoted towards the training and the grooming and what
yeah,
their customers were looking for rather than, shutting up shop. Like anybody who kept their doors open, even if it was only 1 or 2 dogs, I mean,
yeah.
they kept all of their customers and brought on more. So I think that, being able to have that shift in mentality, and I think anybody who's an entrepreneur at this definitely is able to see where the need is. So
Yeah. I will certainly shoot you an email and reach out as we
please
look at
do.
this project and continue to expand. And I know others that are looking around the country. We're currently focused in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and then our plan is to jump to Florida because I have access to people in Florida to run. My my brother lives there, and he's retiring from the fire department, and he's
Perfect.
but But yeah, I would love to have a deeper conversation. I appreciate your presentation as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. And again, just reach out, as I said, happy to answer whatever questions. And if I don't know an answer, then get you one and get back to you as well. So
That'd be great. I appreciate it. Thank you. And Beth,
thanks,
thank you for
Brett.
putting these together. I've been able to sit on several of your events, and it's funny. My dog's laying on the other side of the kitchen on one of your beds, and we're actually in our space. We'll have in the resting area, we'll have the your beds as well as we'll have temporary like crates for dogs. But yeah, it's if you get a chance, I'll put my own plug in. It's called Woof Play Eat.
Yeah.
You can check us out. And but yeah, I think for New England, there's another company in Maine trying to get open before us. So I'll either be the first or the second one in the state of Maine. There's none in New Hampshire right now, and I live on the seacoast of New Hampshire, and we originally started a location here, but the building had too many problems, and we had to back out of the building. The landlord wouldn't fix the problems with the building, so
Mm.
to the point of checking out your buildings and stuff, and
Exactly.
he
And
was
that's where a lot of things in the front end, like getting, I feel that a lot of people are pushed into signing a lease. And that's something that, before we work with anybody, I'm asking to see that lease to make sure that it's looking after them. Not only is it like for the term that we need, but to make sure that, it's a good lease for them as well.
right.
Because there's things that you need to talk about up front, like what's covered by the landlord, what's covered by, you're going to be covering, because those can escalate, especially if you're in an older building or you open a wall and you come across something that you're like, oh my God, this is going to be
Yeah,
hundreds of thousands, not, you know,
yeah.
50,000 that we were told it was going to be.
Yeah, it was in my case that the guy that owned the building was super rich and he just kept dropping the rent rate. So on a cash flow basis, it worked out. But I had to finally tell him at that point, it's your building, not mine.
Yeah,
And you don't want to sell it to me. I wanted to buy it, but he wouldn't sell it for a reasonable price. And then literally we just walked away. And the building has been empty.
ever
It was
since.
empty for 3 years before, and it's been empty since. So,
Yeah. And again, as I tell people, like, even if you can't afford, like 10% is a lot, like buying your real estate and also doing that build out, but like
right.
even ask for that first right of refusal. Cause like you can
Yeah,
come back 2 years later with zero down and purchase your real estate. So initially you were out that 10% for the build out or whatever
yeah,
you do in the front end, and you're keeping cash in your pocket as opposed to
yeah.
giving that bank or giving whoever that extra 10%. So I think it's important, and there's a lot of lessons that do be learned, but again, get financing or get your borrower in as early as possible, even if it's 2 years out, like just having a game plan and knowing things that you have to do that make your life easier or can make the process kind of go along a lot smoother than if you're doing it all by yourself as
All
well.
right. Well,
So
great. I have to jump for one other call, but I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you, and I will send you a message.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brad. It was good to talk to you.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, Claire. This was great. I appreciate it.
Did we record? Do I need to redo anything? Did we record it all?
Hold on.